Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click that notification bell so you never miss out on our deep dives into fascinating topics. Now, buckle up, because today we're heading to the vibrant continent of Africa.
Sounds exciting.
It is. We're going to explore an institution you might not know much about, but you definitely should, especially if you're a UPSC aspirant or just someone with a curious mind. We're talking about the African Development Bank, or AFDB.
The AFDB.
Think of it like this. What if there was a bank dedicated to not just boosting economies, but actually uplifting entire societies across a whole continent?
Wow.
That's the idea behind the AFDB. And today, we're going to break down its crucial role in driving socioeconomic growth and fostering regional integration in Africa. It's a topic that pops up in international relations and could even be a game changer for your UPSC prep.
It's a pretty big deal then.
Absolutely. And to guide us through this complex landscape, we have our resident expert on international finance and development.
It's a pleasure to be here. The AFDB is truly a fascinating institution, and I think our listeners will be surprised by its wide-ranging impact.
I completely agree. So, to kick things off, let's go back to the beginning. When and why was the AFDB established?
Well, the AFDB was founded back in 1964 with a clear mission to combat poverty and improve living standards across Africa.
It's been around for a while then.
It has, and it's important to understand that the AFDB isn't just any bank, it's a multilateral development finance institution, which means it pools resources from multiple countries to support African nations and private companies working towards development goals.
Okay, so it's not a solo act, but a global team effort.
That's right.
And where is this team headquartered?
The AFDB is headquartered in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. But here's a little-known fact. For a decade, from 2003 to 2014, it actually operated out of Tunis, Tunisia, due to political instability in Côte d'Ivoire at the time. This temporary relocation actually highlights the AFDB's adaptability and resilience in the face of challenging circumstances.
Wow, having to pack up and move an entire institution across a continent is no small feat. It speaks volumes about their commitment to the mission. Now, to understand how the AFDB actually tackles these development challenges, we need to dive into its structure.
Absolutely. Think of the AFDB as a three-pronged approach to development finance. Each prong targets a different level of need. You have the African Development Bank itself, which primarily provides loans and equity investments for economic and social progress in relatively stable and financially sound countries. Then there's the African Development Fund, which offers more favorable loan terms, lower interest rates, longer repayment periods to less wealthy African nations.
So it's like a built-in safety net for countries facing greater economic challenges.
Exactly. And finally, we have the Nigeria Trust Fund. This fund is entirely financed by Nigeria and provides even more concessional financing specifically for the poorest African nations.
It's impressive how they've created this tiered system to ensure that support reaches all corners of the continent, regardless of a country's economic standing. But I get the sense that the AFDB is about much more than just doling out funds, right?
You're absolutely right. The AFDB's involvement goes way beyond just money. It's deeply embedded in supporting the entire development ecosystem. For example, it provides crucial technical assistance for development projects and programs. Let's say a country wants to build a new hospital, but they lack the expertise to design it or manage the construction.
I see.
The AFDB can step in and offer that expertise, ensuring the project is successful and sustainable.
So it's like they're not just building infrastructure, but also building capacity within these nations. They're essentially empowering them to manage their own development.
Precisely. And it doesn't stop there. The AFDB also plays a crucial role in encouraging both public and private investments, acting like a magnet to attract more resources towards African development.
So they're not just giving out money, they're actively working to bring in more money. That's smart.
It is, and equally important, the AFDB helps African countries develop and implement effective development policies. This ensures that individual projects are part of a cohesive, long-term vision for sustainable growth and progress.
So it's not a haphazard approach. It's strategic and interconnected.
Exactly. They're working at multiple levels to create a more stable and prosperous future for Africa, and one of their biggest priorities is fostering regional integration. This means breaking down barriers and encouraging collaboration between African nations, building bridges instead of walls, so to speak.
This concept of regional integration is really interesting, and it actually ties in perfectly with the UPSC syllabus, which often delves into international cooperation and regional organizations. Now, we know the AFDB works across various sectors, but let's focus on a couple that are particularly relevant for our UPSC aspirants and, frankly, anyone concerned about sustainable development: education and women's empowerment. These are key themes in international development discourse and frequently appear in the UPSC exam.
Excellent point. These are core areas for the AFDB, and they've implemented some impactful initiatives. For instance, the AFDB has been a major supporter of debt relief for heavily indebted poor countries, or HIPCs. This is crucial because it frees up resources that governments can then invest in critical areas like education and healthcare.
So it's about addressing the root causes of poverty and instability, rather than just putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms.
Exactly. Another significant initiative is their backing of the New Partnership for Africa's Development, or NEPAD. This is a continent-wide strategy for sustainable growth and development that emphasizes good governance, human development, and very importantly, economic integration.
So it's like a roadmap for a brighter future for Africa, one where nations are working together to create a more equitable and prosperous continent.
Precisely. And the AFDB is playing a vital role in turning that roadmap into a reality.
Before we move on to India's partnership with the AFDB, which I'm really excited to discuss, I want to pause for a moment and emphasize something for our listeners. Whether you're a UPSC aspirant, a student, or just someone who cares about global issues, understanding the work of institutions like the AFDB is crucial. It gives you a window into the complexities of development, the challenges different regions face, and the collaborative efforts being made to build a more equitable and prosperous world.
That's a fantastic point. It's about connecting the dots and seeing the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Now let's shift our focus to India's relationship with the AFDB. I find it fascinating that India, a non-African nation, plays such an active role in this institution.
It is remarkable, isn't it? India actually joined the African Development Fund in 1982 and became a full member of the bank itself in 1983.
Oh, wow.
This signifies the strong ties and shared development challenges between India and Africa. It's a great example of South-South cooperation, countries in the global South supporting each other's development journey.
That's a concept that often comes up in international relations discussions, especially in the context of emerging economies. But what does this partnership look like in practice? What are some concrete examples of India and the AFDB working together?
One of the most prominent examples is their collaboration on renewable energy, particularly the Desert to Power initiative.
Okay, Desert to Power definitely sounds ambitious. What exactly does it involve?
It's a massive project aimed at bringing solar energy to millions of people in the Sahel and Sahara regions of Africa, leveraging the abundance of sunlight in these regions. India is playing a significant role in this initiative by sharing its expertise in solar technology and project implementation.
So it's not just about funding, but also about knowledge transfer and capacity building.
Exactly. And beyond renewable energy, Indian companies have made significant investments in key African sectors, boosting industries like energy, construction, ICT, railways, and the auto industry. This shows the multifaceted nature of their partnership, encompassing knowledge sharing, technological collaboration, and direct investment.
It's truly a win-win for both India and Africa. Now, to get a better grasp on the inner workings of the AFDB, let's look at who runs this massive institution. I imagine there's quite a complex governance structure in place.
You're right. It is a complex structure, but it's designed to ensure representation and accountability. At the top, you have the Board of Governors, where each member country has a representative, typically their Minister of Finance, or a similar high-ranking official. This board acts as the ultimate decision-making body, setting the strategic direction for the AFDB.
So it's like the parliament of the AFDB where all the member nations have a voice.
That's a great analogy. And below the Board of Governors, we have the Board of Executive Directors. These individuals manage the day-to-day operations of the bank, putting the policies set by the Board of Governors into action.
So they're the ones on the ground making things happen.
Exactly. And leading this entire operation is the president of the AFDB group, who acts as the face of the institution and steers it towards its goals.
The captain of the ship.
Yeah.
And who currently holds that position.
The current president is Akinwumi Adesina, who was first elected in 2015 and re-elected in 2020.
So he's been at the helm for a while now, navigating the AFDB through some pretty turbulent times, I imagine.
Absolutely. His leadership has been instrumental in guiding the AFDB through various global challenges, from economic downturns to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, one thing that stands out to me about the AFDB is its commitment to transparency and accountability, especially when dealing with development funds. How do they ensure that these principles are upheld in their operations?
That's a crucial point, and they've taken several steps to address this. For starters, the AFDB publishes a comprehensive annual report that details its financial performance project outcomes and overall progress toward its development goals. It's like a report card for the bank, allowing anyone to see how they're managing resources and achieving results.
So it's about being open and honest about their successes and challenges.
Exactly. And it's not just about crunching numbers. They also actively engage with civil society organizations and the communities directly impacted by their projects. This ensures that the voices of those most affected by development initiatives are heard and taken into account.
So it's about moving away from a top-down approach and incorporating grassroots perspectives.
Precisely. They've also established an independent review mechanism which allows individuals or communities to file complaints if they believe they've been negatively impacted by a bank-funded project. This acts as a safeguard to ensure projects are implemented responsibly and ethically.
It's encouraging to see that they have mechanisms in place to address potential grievances and hold themselves accountable. Now, it's important to acknowledge that the AFDB isn't operating in a vacuum. It faces a multitude of challenges in the complex and ever-changing landscape of international development. What are some of the biggest hurdles they're dealing with today?
One of the most pressing challenges, of course, is the persistent issue of poverty across Africa. Despite significant progress in recent decades, many African nations continue to grapple with high levels of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. This makes the AFDB's work even more crucial in addressing these deeply entrenched issues.
So it's a constant battle against systemic issues that require long-term solutions.
Absolutely. Another major challenge is the impact of climate change, which is already having devastating effects on many African countries. We're talking about droughts, floods, rising sea levels, events that threaten livelihoods and disrupt development progress. The AFDB is playing a leading role in helping African nations adapt to and mitigate the impacts of climate change, shifting the focus towards sustainable development.
So it's not just about building economies, it's about building resilience in the face of a changing climate.
Exactly. And then there are the challenges of conflict and instability, which can derail development progress and create humanitarian crises. This requires the AFDB to operate in a context where peace and security are prerequisites for sustainable development. It's a complex web of interconnected issues.
It sounds like the AFDB has its work cut out for it tackling these multifaceted challenges on multiple fronts.
It certainly does. And let's not forget the challenges posed by globalization, which can create both opportunities and risks for African economies. The AFDB is helping African nations navigate the complexities of the global economy and harness the forces of globalization for their benefit, ensuring they're not left behind in the global marketplace.
So it's about equipping African nations with the tools and strategies to thrive in an increasingly interconnected world. But amidst all these challenges, it's important to remember that the AFDB has a long and impressive track record of success.
Absolutely. Despite the hurdles, they've achieved some remarkable things.
Well, let's delve into that in part 2. We'll explore the AFDB's achievements, its evolving relationship with China, and some of the criticisms it has faced.
They really have. It's inspiring to see the positive impact they've had on the lives of so many people.
Absolutely. So let's delve into some of the AFDB's most notable achievements. What stands out to you as their biggest wins?
Well, one of their most significant achievements has been their contribution to reducing poverty across Africa. Since its founding, the AFDB has invested billions of dollars in projects and programs that have lifted millions of people out of poverty.
That's incredible.
These investments have ranged from supporting agricultural initiatives to building vital infrastructure and promoting education and healthcare.
It's amazing to think about the ripple effect of those investments, creating opportunities and transforming lives across generations.
It really is. And beyond poverty reduction, the AFDB has played a key role in developing Africa's infrastructure. From roads and bridges to power plants and telecommunications networks. This focus on infrastructure is crucial because it lays the foundation for economic growth and connectivity, allowing businesses to thrive and people to access essential services.
It's like building the arteries and veins of a healthy economy, allowing resources and opportunities to flow freely throughout the continent.
That's a great analogy. They've also been a champion for education and healthcare across Africa, investing in schools, hospitals, and training programs that have improved the lives of countless people.
Investing in human capital, the most valuable resource of any nation, is a key pillar of sustainable development. It's encouraging to see the AFDB prioritizing this.
Absolutely. And we can't forget their commitment to promoting gender equality and empowering women. The AFDB has been at the forefront of efforts to close the gender gap in education, healthcare, and economic opportunity, recognizing that empowering women is essential for unlocking Africa's full potential.
It's about creating a more inclusive and equitable society where everyone has a chance to thrive.
Precisely. These are just a few examples of the AFDB's many achievements. They continue to play a vital role in driving development progress across Africa, and their work is more critical now than ever.
It's truly inspiring to see the positive change they're driving. Now let's switch gears a bit and discuss something that's been generating a lot of buzz in international relations circles: the evolving relationship between the AFDB and China. China's growing influence in Africa has been a major talking point, and I'm curious to hear your perspective on how the AFDB is navigating this new dynamic.
It's certainly a topic that has sparked a lot of debate. China has emerged as a major player in African development, investing heavily in infrastructure projects and providing loans to African governments.
Right.
This has led some to speculate about whether traditional development institutions like the AFDB are feeling the pressure.
So there's a sense that there might be some competition brewing between established institutions and newer players like China.
There's definitely a dynamic at play, but I wouldn't necessarily frame it as a cutthroat competition. In reality, the situation is more nuanced.
So how would you characterize the relationship between the AFDB and China? Is it more about collaboration or rivalry?
I think it's a bit of both, but increasingly leaning towards collaboration. The AFDB recognizes that China is a major force in Africa, and they've been exploring opportunities to work together.
Interesting. Tell me more about how this collaboration is unfolding.
Well, for example, the AFDB and China have co-financed a number of infrastructure projects in Africa, pooling resources and expertise to achieve shared development goals.
Okay.
It's a practical approach that recognizes the benefits of working together.
So it's about leveraging each other's strengths to maximize impact.
Exactly. The AFDB has also been engaging with China on crucial issues like debt sustainability and environmental protection, ensuring that Chinese investments in Africa are sustainable and beneficial in the long run.
It sounds like the AFDB is taking a proactive approach to shape the nature of these investments and ensure that they align with sustainable development principles.
That's right. They're not shying away from engaging with China, but they're also not afraid to voice concerns and advocate for responsible investment practices.
It's a delicate balancing act, but one that's crucial for Africa's long-term well-being. Now, with all this talk about China's involvement in Africa, it's worth noting that the AFDB has faced its share of criticism in recent years.
Yes, like any large institution, the AFDB isn't immune to criticism. There have been concerns raised about various aspects of their operations.
What are some of the specific criticisms that have been leveled against them?
Well, some critics have argued that the AFDB's lending practices are too focused on large-scale infrastructure projects, potentially overlooking the needs of small and medium-sized enterprises, which are crucial for job creation and economic growth.
So there's a concern that they might be prioritizing big-ticket projects over the needs of smaller businesses, which are often the backbone of local economies.
Exactly. There have also been concerns about the environmental impact of some AFDB-funded projects, particularly large dams and other infrastructure projects that can have significant ecological consequences.
It's a reminder that development needs to be balanced with environmental sustainability.
Absolutely. And there have been calls for greater transparency and accountability in the AFDB's governance structure, ensuring that they are operating in a way that is both effective and ethically sound.
So it's about ensuring that they are living up to the high standards expected of a development institution.
Exactly. In response to these criticisms, the AFDB has taken steps to improve its practices. For example, they have increased their lending to small and medium-sized enterprises and have adopted stricter environmental and social safeguards.
It sounds like they're listening to these concerns and taking concrete actions to address them.
They are. They've shown a willingness to adapt and evolve. Of course, they still face challenges, but it's encouraging to see that they are engaging with these critiques and striving to improve their operations.
Accountability and continuous improvement are essential for any institution, especially one that plays such a crucial role in development.
I agree. Now, before we wrap up this discussion on the AFDB, I want to circle back to something we touched upon earlier: the crucial role they play in promoting regional integration in Africa.
This is a fascinating aspect of their work, and it's become even more important as African nations face a growing number of shared challenges, from climate change to economic instability.
You're absolutely right. The idea behind regional integration is that by working together, African nations can achieve more than they could individually.
Right.
It's about pooling resources, sharing expertise, and creating a unified front to tackle common challenges.
So it's about fostering a sense of shared destiny and collective action.
Exactly. The AFDB has been instrumental in supporting the development of regional economic communities, such as the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, and the Southern African Development Community, or SADC. These organizations promote economic cooperation and integration within specific regions of Africa.
It's like creating smaller regional blocks that can then work together on a larger continental scale.
That's a great way to think about it. The AFDB has also supported the development of regional infrastructure projects such as cross-border roads, railways, and power grids.
These physical connections are essential for facilitating trade and movement of people, literally connecting African nations together.
Exactly. And beyond physical infrastructure, the AFDB has been a strong advocate for the African Continental Free Trade Area, or AFCFTA. This ambitious initiative aims to create a single market for goods and services across the entire African continent.
Wow, that's a game changer. What are the potential benefits of the AFCFTA, and how could it reshape Africa's economic landscape?
Well, the FCFTA has the potential to dramatically boost intra-African trade, create millions of new jobs, and stimulate economic growth across the continent. It could also help to reduce poverty and inequality by opening up new opportunities for businesses and workers.
It sounds like it has the potential to transform Africa's economic future, paving the way for greater prosperity and integration.
It certainly does. And the AFDB is playing a key role in supporting the implementation of the AFCFTA, providing technical assistance, financial resources, and advocating for its success.
It's exciting to see this ambitious initiative taking shape. It's a testament to the power of collaboration and the vision for a more integrated and prosperous Africa.
Absolutely. It represents a bold step toward realizing Africa's economic potential and creating a more unified continent.
Now, as we approach the end of our deep dive, let's recap some key takeaways about the AFDB for our listeners.
Sounds great. It's always good to synthesize the key points.
First and foremost, the AFDB is a vital institution for driving development progress across Africa. They're playing a crucial role in financing infrastructure projects, supporting small and medium-sized enterprises, promoting education and healthcare, and empowering women.
They're a multifaceted institution tackling a wide range of development challenges with a holistic approach.
Secondly, the AFDB is a key player in promoting regional integration in Africa, supporting the development of regional economic communities' infrastructure projects, and the game-changing African Continental Free Trade Area.
It's about connecting the dots, building bridges, and creating a more unified and prosperous continent.
And finally, the AFDB is an evolving institution constantly adapting to a changing world. They're facing new challenges from climate change to China's growing influence in Africa, but they're also embracing new opportunities, such as the potential of the AFCFTA.
It's a dynamic institution that's shaping the future of Africa and playing a vital role on the global development stage.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
It's been a fascinating journey through the world of the AFDB.
I have to say I've learned a lot from this deep dive, and I hope our listeners have too.
I'm sure they have. It's a topic that deserves greater attention and understanding.
Before we wrap up completely, I want to acknowledge that we've only scratched the surface of this complex and multifaceted institution.
There's always more to explore. The AFDB is a dynamic institution with a rich history and an even more exciting future ahead.
Exactly. But hopefully we've provided our listeners with a solid foundation for understanding the AFDB's role in promoting socioeconomic growth and regional integration in Africa.
I think we've accomplished that. We've highlighted their achievements, explored their challenges, and showcased the potential they hold for shaping Africa's future.
Now, for those of you who are eager to delve even deeper into the world of the AFDB, we've included some helpful links in the show notes.
Be sure to check them out. There's a wealth of information available to explore.
And as always, we encourage you to share your thoughts and reflections on this episode in the comments section below. We love hearing from our listeners.
Engaging with our audience is one of the most rewarding parts of this journey. We value your insights and perspectives.
Well, that brings us to the end of another deep dive.
It's been a pleasure exploring the world of the AFDB with you and our listeners.
The pleasure was all ours. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.